Hello friends, my name is Marinés, and I started this video kind of knowing what I wanted to say. I think my main difficulty in approaching this topic is addressing or drawing the line between what is personal and what I want to say in a more general or broad sense. Generally, I want to say that when times are tough, it's easy to neglect the importance of making things. Personally, I want to say that when times are tough, the first thing that slips away from me are the things that I create. I have the impression that because I am very logical in the things that I critique, people don't often believe me when I say that I'm a very emotional person. I'm an emotional person. I'm not very good at expressing these emotions, especially in my daily life, and I often funnel them into creating or fiction or communities or hobbies. I redirect all of my emotional energy. I mean, not all of my emotional energy. I feel like it can still be found trying not to cry every other day at work. My point is when I make things, when I write, when I script, when I jump into a TV show or a book or any kind of story, I typically do so feelings first. Now I have to admit that my hobbies suffer whenever I get busy, whether that's good busy or bad busy. I don't make any kind of money making these videos or planning bookish events or writing for Snark Squad. I squeeze these things in between my responsibilities like so many of us do just because we love to do them. I love these things, but they are the things that are often first sacrificed on the altar of not enough time. In the past, when this channel has gone quiet for however long a period of time, it was almost always because of not enough time. Recently, I took some time away, and not only from this channel, but from BookTube as a whole, and from social media to a lesser extent. I was busy, to be sure, but that wasn't why I stopped making things. I don't want to get super political, but things have been difficult ever since the last election. I remember that soon after the election, I was at an airport with a close friend, and we were waiting to board our plane, I think to YALLFest, and we were talking about how the aftermath of the election felt so much like mourning. It was so difficult to explain that feeling, but it was certainly very close to what I had remembered feeling or what I had remembered of grief. And it wasn't grief over an outcome that I didn't like. It wasn't ever a matter of an administration that I wouldn't like, but really over an administration that wouldn't like me. Anyone who follows my channel or follows me on Twitter knows that I speak very openly and very freely about representation in media as part of a larger discussion about diversity and combating the harmful stereotypes that are spoon-fed to society about the marginalized. The last few months have really been an exercise in seeing how much isms still exist in society, and we're even taking it from a larger societal sense, and it's a national news, but it's also in local news, and suddenly it's at your dinner table, it's in your family, it's in your closer spheres. Paying attention and being informed became emotionally taxing, at least for me. I sometimes dread catching up with the news, or I dread when somebody else brings up a piece of news item because I'm scared of what commentary they might make or regurgitate or, pass off as their own that attacks me as a person. Not my beliefs, not my political system, but literally who I am as a person. I didn't have the emotional capacity to create anymore. I didn't have the emotional capacity to read or consume stories of any kind. For someone like me who steps into art or media with their emotions, having those emotions taxed by anything else becomes paralyzing. It didn't help that the conversations that were kind of surrounding BookTube became very difficult to handle. It was difficult to see the people, specifically the women of color, who were leading the conversation about diversity consistently and for so many years, overlooked for the non-marginalized people who were stepping into the conversation. And it was difficult to communicate that because hooray, people are talking about this all of a sudden, but also being pushed to the side in that manner. It was hard to log on to these spaces and be confronted with again and again and again the people whose privilege allow them to ignore the voices of the marginalized and prioritize their enjoyment of a book over the hurt of other real people. It was logging on and seeing yet another video about a cause championed by the marginalized labeled as drama. Imagine adding your voice to a conversation, but lumping up every other voice in a drama garbage can so that you don't have to pay attention to them. It was hard to assert my right to be here and assert my opinion because I never get to turn that off. Turning off social media isn't always an escape for the marginalized, especially in a political climate that is asking them to assert their right to exist. BookTube let me down a little bit, if I'm honest, and I needed a break. The really weird thing though was that even though I distanced myself, I took a break and I needed a little time to breathe, I always had the conviction that I needed to keep making things. It's easy during difficult times to convince ourselves that our attention and our time need to be spent outward, and that that's somehow more important than, say, making a 10-minute video talking about books that a few hundred people on the internet will see. And as much as I can feel that way about my own things, about the things that I create, I can also stand here with absolute certainty and tell you that the things that you create, the things that you make, matter. This kind of creation helps us process emotions, even negative ones. Our collective grief or confusion or anger can take on a form, and it becomes a form that we can share with other people. Even when what you're creating doesn't feel relevant, it can be resistance, especially for the marginalized. There are people out there, including the ones in highest power, that are questioning your place in society. You can assert that place by creating within that society. Whatever it is that you create and make and share now moves that much further beyond you, and it bears your name. Even when it doesn't feel relevant, we are surrounded by destruction, and what you make is construction. Maybe this is all more a message for me, for some future version of me that will feel the need to disengage and disconnect, some future version of me that will question why she writes and why she facilitates and why she makes silly little videos on YouTube. I want her to know that it matters to create things, even in difficult times, perhaps especially so.